What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Just jumping on here real quick to kind of give kind of an instant reaction to the Steelers falling to the 49ers. Week one of the NFL season. Really disappointing game overall, a 30-7 loss. Just going to talk some about, going to try to find some positives to talk about. Going to talk about some negatives as well within the matchup, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Just general observations, some injury updates, and things of that nature. So, I think more than anything, before we get into kind of the positives of the game, just some of the stuff that kind of bothered me, just on a kind of big picture level, just the Steelers felt like they just came out really flat, man. Just really both sides of the ball. Neither side really showed much of a spark. I think that was really the big thing that stuck out to me. San Francisco came out and played extremely well. They were, prepared. They really, from the jump, this game was really never close. And, especially for the Steelers, getting their first home opener since 2014, I think that is incredibly disappointing. I know a lot of people that was going to the game in person, and, that atmosphere, I feel like, the entire city of Pittsburgh had been waiting for like a week one home opener for a while. And to see them, come out and play, I won't say that poorly, but just like that flat, really throughout the game from the jump was kind of disappointing to me. But let's talk a little bit about some positives. One of the positives I think that needs to be talked about is TJ Watt, man. I thought he played absolutely phenomenal. On the pregame scout show on the Steelers Now YouTube channel, that me and Matt are going to be doing weekly, we talked about how TJ had a very advantageous matchup. They had a brand new right tackle coming in first year as like a full-time starter. TJ looked like he was that dude. He looked really strong, really all day. He was really trying to single-handedly kind of will the Steelers into contention today. I felt like, 3 sacks, had a couple other pressures. I think he had at least one pass deflection too, if I remember correctly. Looked really good getting off the rock. He looked, like the TJ we're accustomed to seeing now that he's back to 100% health. Unfortunately, we really didn't get to see much of that last season for number 90, but he looked awesome. So I think that's definitely a good thing. Just some of the other positives that I was trying to take away from the game. I thought Anthony McFarland returning kicks looked really good, averaged over, 30 yards per return. He got in on offense, converted a first down for him as well near the goal line. So a good game from Ant. He's carved out a nice role for himself, and I think that it's, at least impressive for him, to kind of, cement his role within the team. Next, I thought Deontay had a pretty good game, or had the potential to have an even better game. Once they finally got something going on offense, you kind of saw him start to get some opportunities to go to work on the boundary. Only 3 catches, but a couple of those were really clutch before the half, getting the Steelers going, getting some points on the board. And then, that last reception that he had on kind of that quick hitter, he catches the ball, immediately gets upfield, yards after the catch. I thought the receivers did some things after the catch today that were better than last year, particularly Johnson, getting up the field. I think it was like a 30-something yard play or something like that, but it was like one of the longest plays of the Steelers offense had today. So unfortunately, he exited the game with a hamstring injury. It's definitely going to be something to watch for. Really, this game could have been so much better for him, not just because of the injury, but, the Steelers went empty before his injury, and he was lined up as the number 2 on the weak side of the field, and he's working out of the slot. I can't remember if it was a linebacker or a safety, but he just completely dusts him on a choice route, breaks towards the middle. Kenny throws it behind him. He probably would have walked in for a touchdown. So just kind of more of the same for Johnson, man. It's like, he has some really frustrating moments with the drops and stuff like that, just the mental mistakes, the penalties. But also just, he's had some really rough luck, whether it's, just off target passes, and now the injury thing, who knows? Hopefully this hamstring thing's minor, but overall I thought he could be considered a positive. With his departure, Calvin Austin ended up getting some playing time, which I thought was a good thing, getting him some experience in, his first regular season game. Austin didn't do anything too crazy. I did think he had a really good route that I highlighted on Twitter. They were trying to run kind of a spear concept, just kind of working 2 crossers over the middle of the field. Austin kind of hit the defender. I believe it was a safety with kind of a rocker step, rocket to his left, to his right, and then back across the field. And he actually made the defender fall. Didn't get the ball because there was some interior pressure that caused Pickett to kind of bail out the right side of the pocket. But, I didn't put Austin in my winners column for SteelersNow.com, but after kind of going through some of the stuff in the replay already, I think that he could potentially deserve that. They're going to need him too. He played pretty much all his snaps that I saw outside, or most of them. So if Johnson misses any particular time, it looks like Austin's going to be the next guy up. So they tried to get him the ball, some quick touches, jet sweep, screen. I know he caught a screen pass. Be interested to see, how his role kind of develops over the course of the season. Really didn't have too many other positives, man. I thought Nick Herbig had a couple intriguing rushes. He beat Trent Williams once with a nice inside move counter. I believe it was on the same play as TJ Watt got his second sack, I believe. Alex Highsmith, I thought, played the run pretty well. He had a couple run stops that I thought he held his own at the point of attack pretty well. But really nothing as a pass rusher. Trent Williams kind of was able to lock that side down for the most part all afternoon. So one of the best players in the game. So that stuff happens. But in terms of negatives, man, I think you got to start with Kenny Pickett. Really frustrating day overall. Social media can be toxic place when a quarterback plays poorly, but that's just part of the gig, unfortunately. Seeing a lot of people kind of freaking out to one performance. I do want to keep, these comments are just strictly based on today's performance. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be like this or anything like that. But, just looking at today's game, it wasn't a good one. Pickett's accuracy, which, really was one of, I think, the strong points of his rookie season. His accuracy was really all over the place from the jump today. Some of the same kind of tendencies with inside the pocket, technically within structure too, just really jittery. You can go back and watch the replay. His feet are just all over the place, just bouncing up and down, just not really ready in that ready to throw state. Just some of the Niners pressure was really getting to him, and he made some poor decisions too. Not even so much that interception that he threw late to Fred Warner, because they're down a couple scores. It's a bad decision, but you're down a couple scores. You're trying to force the ball, so I'm not trying to hammer him on that. But there was a couple plays in particular in the red zone. He turned down a touchdown to Pat Freiermuth on a sticker or kind of a choice route when he was breaking to the outside, and then dumped it off to Jaylen Warren, who was hit immediately in the backfield. Even the first interception, he's trying to throw that with a little bit of anticipation. Deontay kind of falls down, but he was pretty well blanketed on the play. The ball kind of flutters out of his hand a little bit, so you think that maybe he's trying to pull that back. I'm not really sure, but just never really quite looked settled in today. This is a big test. Niners having a fantastic defense with very few weaknesses. But on the day, I think he was 1 for 7 on throws over 15 yards, 2 of those being interceptions. It's going to be tough, to sustain drives like that, 10 to 12 play drives against that Niners defense. It's really hard, man, especially with that pass rush. The offensive line definitely has some blame here as well. That when the quarterback gets hit 8 or 9 times, I think that's, really speaks for itself. They did not protect the quarterback very well. Some of that was game script. The Steelers got behind early. And then, you saw the 49ers pass rushers just tee off kind of on the quarterback. Drake Jackson had a really good game. Nick Bosa had a couple reps where he was able to almost get home as well. I thought that there were a couple stunts that weren't picked up well up the middle. But I had to go back and really watch the film to kind of see, who kind of deserves the quote unquote blame or whatever for each of those sacks or pressures or quarterback hits or whatever. But I think it was really a joint effort. Pickett, again, looked really jittery in the pocket to me, just not very decisive, kind of slow on the trigger a couple times. And then there were definitely times, too, where there was just quick interior pressure or pressure around the edge and, kind of let the quarterback out to dry, which was frustrating. So in terms of other losers, man, I thought the run defense was particularly poor. McCaffrey was, the usual Christian McCaffrey that we're used to seeing. But at the same time, man, when Mike Tomlin starts his press conference and he says, oh, it's always about, number 23. It's always about CMC. That's how their offense, it kind of goes. And then you go out there and you allow him to run for, how many yards did he even run for? 152 yards, 6.9 yards per carry and a touchdown. That 65-yard touchdown run was a huge point in the game to start the second half when they got the ball first. You see guys, and it's not just up front. I don't think the offensive or the defensive line, played particularly well. Not enough guys getting off blocks, kind of losing ground at the point of attack. They were kind of rotating guys into injury. Ogunjobi wasn't announced as a starter. Liao had an elbow Cam Hayward kind of was in and out of the lineup with a groin, so there were some backups playing throughout some of the time. But really, from the start of the game, they didn't get enough push up front. Linebackers weren't kept free. They didn't really make any splash plays either. I think Landon Roberts had one or two tackles near the line of scrimmage early, but that was really it. And then even that kind of boiled down to the secondary as well. Levi Wallace misses a crucial tackle at the second, third level of that CMC touchdown run, and that's a killer, man. When your corners don't tackle well, those typically result in big plays. And then, you got to give credit to the Niners wide receivers, Ayuk, Ray McLeod. They did an excellent job blocking. Ayuk KO DeMonte KZ on that play. So that's how you get explosive runs. You have all 10 blockers blocking all the way down the field, and credit to them. But I think the other kind of probably loser of the game, Patrick Peterson. A lot was kind of made. I don't know how much this stuff really matters, the quote unquote like bulletin board material, but Patrick Peterson had said what he said about Brock Purdy, said that he was going to get an interception, on his podcast or whatever. And then he was going to break it down how he did it. Coming out early, first drive of the game, Ayuk kind of hits him with that in breaker. Peterson slips. A couple Steelers had trouble keeping their footing on the field today with Pitt playing a game there at Acrisure Stadium last night. But Peterson gets beat early. He comes back, makes a couple nice PBUs in man coverage, might I add. So I thought that there was a couple positive plays from him. And then, that last one, Purdy, chooses to go, down the right sideline on the go ball to Ayuk, and, Peterson's in good position, but, isn't able to locate the football. Ayuk is able to, toe tap his way in the end zone and for the score. So, just a tough game, especially when you kind of give the opponent some quote unquote bulletin board material, if such a thing exists or whatever. It definitely made its way to the Niners locker room because Purdy referenced it after the game. But you talk cash before the game, you got to make sure you back it up. I mean, that's any of us who've played sports at any level, we kind of know how that is. But just some of the concerns I have going forward, really that is the biggest one, I think. Defensively, it is. I still think that you saw the Steelers do what they did last year. They want to play a lot of man covers, specifically on those passing downs and stuff like that. And just not sure that they have the personnel to do that. They took a bunch of corners. Levi Wallace played in a heavy zone system in Buffalo 2 years ago. Patrick Peterson, Chandon Sullivan, heavy zone system in Minnesota the past couple of years. And then, the man corner they went out and got, Joey Porter Jr.'s mostly relegated to sitting on the sideline. So it's a confusing kind of approach back there in the back end on what they want to do. They tried to do some things with Minka as a blitzer. Didn't really quite work today. But that's just one of the questions I have going forward is, are the Steelers going to be able to open up this full menu of defensive plays, in the secondary? Are the corners going to be able to hold up? That's my biggest question, and, I think you got to give credit to Ayuk and, the San Fran offense and whatever. Ayuk's one of the best. He's one of the most underrated players, I think, in the National Football League. I think he's such a good receiver. He's the best pure receiver on that team. He demolished man coverage last year, but, I think that was a good test, but it kind of shows you where some of the struggles could be potentially on defense too. And then on offense, man, nothing went well for them today. I mean, Matt Canada, this is his third year as offensive coordinator. They've yet to put up over 400 yards of offense in any of the games. You can divvy out the blame to, I know people, every time I tweet something on Twitter, it's like everybody's trying to divide up the blame. Is it the coordinator? Is it the quarterback? Is it the offensive line? It's everybody. I mean, when you have a game like today, you lose 30-7 at home. It's everybody. There wasn't one specific thing that went wrong today. They really just didn't get anything going. Even the run game, they had a couple unsuccessful runs early, but they had to get away from it because of the deficit. But even they didn't really do a ton in those limited opportunities. Najee had the one big run, but that was mostly kind of him just freestyling a little bit and getting in his bag for that deep run down the right sideline. But overall, it was a frustrating loss. I don't want to make it more than what it is. It's one game. I'm sure the players are beat up about it. I know fans are upset, so I'm sorry, you guys, that y'all had to witness that. It was a frustrating game to watch. Definitely, I would love to get on here and, be real positive, but I just want to, y'all know how it is on this channel. We keep it real. We keep it honest. And that game, it sucked, man. It sucked. So it's a tough one. Injuries, Deontay Johnson, the hamstring, Cam Hayward, groin. Those are the big ones. We'll have to wait and see like what that looks like. I mean, neither of those guys were able to finish the game. I think those are both particularly concerning injuries because Johnson, even with Calvin Austin, and I think that he can play. I don't know that he's getting. There is no substitute for a guy like Deontay Johnson. The way he separates on the outside. There's just not really guys in the league that kind of have his type of skill set against press coverage and man. And if he's out for a significant amount of time, that sucks. And then Cam Hayward, obviously, those soft tissue injuries, again, with the groin, you don't know what that could potentially look like. Hayward, especially at this point in his career, 34 years old, you would hate for him to lose any amount of time, especially while he finished last season on such a high level. I know there were some other injuries. I know Chooks was getting evaluated for a concussion. Dan Moore had to flip over to the right side of the same game. They brought Broderick Jones into left tackle. So we'll see what Chooks' status is for next week. They do have an additional day because they don't play until Monday Night Football against the Browns. The Browns, interesting test coming up. They held Joe Burrow to 3 points today. I had that game on my laptop. I was kind of peeking back and forth. Didn't catch a ton of it, but it looked like the Browns secondary, Martin Emerson, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, those guys played extremely well against the Bengals receivers. So the Steelers are going to have a big test. They're going to need to get Deontay Johnson back. They're going to need Kenny to be much more settled down in the pocket, and a bit bounce back week. One thing I'll note about Kenny, and this is just me trying to play optimist here, but everyone that's ever been around him, media guys that have covered him, longer than I have always said, the resiliency behind his game. He has a short memory. Didn't look like it today, but I'm optimistic that he'll look better week 2 against the Browns. It's just you got to just shake this one off. This is one of those where it's almost hard to take anything good from the film. It'll be a lot of tough plays to look at, I think, just from what I could see. So, but I appreciate you guys tapping in with me. Please make sure that you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. I appreciate y'all's support. Sorry about the result of the game. It is what it is, but I told you guys I was going to try to do some pregame, postgame stuff on the channel like this, so I still wanted to hop on and talk a little bit of ball. So I'll have at least one film room, maybe some other stuff if I can get to it. At least one film room for sure this week, through the week. If you guys have certain things that y'all want me to break out in the film rooms, even shorter videos, longer videos, please let me know in the comments. Let me know what y'all thought of the game. All that good stuff is greatly appreciated. And I'll check you guys next time. Peace and love.